2022, the year when Tifa attended an Italian government meeting, Elon Musk bought Twitter just because. Discovery practically canceled the Western animation industry, Netflix decided it no longer liked money, and a lot of good video games came out. Despite what most people thought. Like, seriously guys, games other than Elden Ring and God of War exist. Alright, look, you know how these videos work. I'm gonna bombard you with the games that I played in 2022 regardless of release year, and you're going to like it. I've been really into hack and slashes in recent years. I don't know, there's just something I really like about a game that's all about improving your skills with satisfying combat. But I hadn't taken the time to get into the game that basically popularized this genre until early last year, with that series being Dante Must Die, better known as Devil May Cry. The first game's kinda rough around the edges, but it's still a pretty fun time. The main thing is the non-linear level design that doesn't work very well for this kind of game, and it holds up oddly well otherwise. I really like the atmosphere. This castle is a pretty cool place. The controls just need a little more refinement is all. You'd think that would be pretty easy to do in a sequel, but they gave us Devil May Cry 2 instead. Granted, it does do that. The game controls way better this time around, but the game is so boring. You can just stand in a corner and hold down the fire button half the time. Devil May Cry 2 is such a nothing game. I didn't hate it, I didn't like it, you can completely skip the plot, I didn't even bother playing Lucia's story. I just wanted to play Devil May Cry 3. And right from the tutorial I could already tell how much better it is. It's a lot more challenging too. I played enough of these kind of games and not have too much trouble, but it was oddly refreshing. It was super satisfying using my first attempt to learn the boss patterns and then completely demolish them on the second attempt. Combine that with awesome weapons and letting you literally change your playstyle, and you have a game that's meant to be replayed. DMC3 kicks ass. They must have known they couldn't outdo this for DMC4, so they had a new protagonist with a new playstyle. Nero has a sword with a motor on it, and they can rev up like a motorcycle to make your next attack do more damage. It's weird at first, but once you learn that you can instantly increase it by 1 at the end of an attack, it's rather sick. He's also got this snazzy demon arm that lets him grab enemies and even pull them towards him. Nero's an easy to learn, hard to master kind of character. It's a fun time. But then he plays Dante and you question why the first 2/3 of the game couldn't be this good. That style system is mapped to the D-pad now, so you can swap abilities on the fly and combine them, and oh my god, this game would have been so much better if you'd played as Dante the whole time. When you go back to playing as Nero near the end, the game takes a massive nosedive in enjoyability for me. It doesn't matter how good Nero is, you just made me realize I'd rather play as Dante. It just kind of makes it go, what the hell is this? Also, the Switch version of DMC3 lets you switch styles with the D-pad like in 4, which just means I need to play that game again. So next up in the series, they made a reboot. I played DMC5 instead. I don't think anyone will blame me. God, I could not put this game down. It's so much fun. DMC5 is the perfect fusion between 3 and 4 with even more refinements and polish. Multiple protagonists also handle much better with you periodically switching between characters instead of just once at the end. There's a good balance of playstyles too. Nier is the easy to learn, hard to master character like before, but Dante is a more customizable character that's harder to fully take advantage of. Then there's V, who summons animals to fight for him. He's really unorthodox, but works really well. Almost a little too well, though. He's practically the easy mode. I don't think I ever died playing as him. You can mostly stay out of harm's reach given how his playstyle is. It's the main thing I didn't like about DMC2. And dude, the music in 5 is like really good. Devil May Cry's music was always fine, but it's on a whole nother level this time. If anyone says video game music isn't real music, just shove Devil Trigger or Bury the Light in their face. They went so hard on this when they really didn't need to. The game's a bit easy on normal, but then the virtual fight is brutally difficult and I didn't mind. Makes sense why it's so hard though, dude's a beast to play as. Devil May Cry 5 was outstanding. It modernizes the formula so well, it makes you question how fixed camera angles weren't ditched sooner. No wonder the memes are so good. This plastic chair is peak comedy. If you want another game about killing demonic creatures, Kirby finally went 3D with Forgotten Land, and it's shocking just how well the transition went. Granted, Kirby took a hell of a lot longer than everyone else. 3D conventions are almost a science at this point. But in order to keep a series like this so accessible, making that jump to 3D was gonna be hard. 3D games are harder for a player to understand and harder to design around, and so they basically went with something akin to more 3D World. And that was clearly the right decision because I was having way too much fun with this game. It's just so delightful. Especially when the biological horror of the week shows up, which is weird because I wasn't vibing with the demo. I don't know what it was. It must have just been the first level or two that I wasn't into. Relax yourself as you frolic around in a post-apocalyptic wasteland and discover the horror that is London. I think Hal played a little too much Bloodborne. Alternatively, maybe you don't want to turn your brain off. Maybe you want to gain brain cells instead of losing them. While Triangle Strategy ended up filling the Fire Emblem-sized void in my soul. It's similar to Fire Emblem, and it's apparently a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Tactics, but I've never played those games. Maybe I should. And it does a lot different from Fire Emblem that I really enjoyed. Like how each unit serves a different role. No one feels the same, and you rarely get the chance to one-shot enemies, so everything feels like a potential threat. My favorite bit being that the turn order is based on speed, so you never go along without being able to make a move. There's no saving hard choices for later either. You have to make a decision now, because sitting back and doing nothing won't get you anywhere. A lot of maps are just route the enemy, but you really have to think to accomplish that, which is really refreshing. My only big problem with Triangle Strategy is that the gameplay to cutscene ratio can be pretty bad. The battles can get decently long, but there's still points where you watch a lot of cutscenes. It's a really intricate plot with a lot of moving parts, and I really enjoyed it. But you know, man, sometimes I just want to play anime chess. A few years back, I played Metal Gear Solid 1 through 4. The main reason why I stopped going through them was because I got a new PC at the time, and I just wanted to play games on that. Ironically, I already had Metal Gear Rising on PC. So, what made me come back to it after all this time?
The memes.
For some reason, everyone started memeing on this game again almost 9 years after it came out. So I was like, I never got around to giving it a real shot. Let's try again. And hot damn. Now, I really like the other games, but honestly, slow, stealth, spy, conspiracy flicks aren't really my thing. Meanwhile, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is exactly my kind of game. It turns Metal Gear into a cheesy, over-the-top action movie where you cause every explosion. It's an action game first and foremost, and somehow ended up being made by Platinum Games of all developers. The exact people who could pull off a game like this better than anyone. There is no dodge move. Your only method of defense is to parry enemy attacks and counter them so hard you chop them up and rip out their spine to fully heal yourself. And I don't even need to exaggerate. This game is so committed to being an action game that the stealth mechanics are some of the worst I've ever seen in a video game. It's so much easier and way more fun to go in swords blazing instead. It's actually hard to find a single point in the whole game that wasn't awesome, and the only parts I wasn't having fun with were the parts that I was bad at. Even the story is stupid. It's the usual Metal Gear plot, but with all the nuance and subtext stripped away so my puny brain can comprehend it.
Like the good old days after 9/11.
My brother in Christ, what the actual fuck? Like, I nearly fell out of my chair when Senator Armstrong said he was gonna make America great again. This game came out in 2013. Metal Gear Rising is a non-stop thriller ride that doesn't lose steam until the credits roll, and I'm so mad that they'll never make another one. While we're on the subject of games I'll never continue, Xenosaga. I played episode 1 last year, and in my brain rot hype for Xenoblade 3, I decided to play through the other 2 games. Episode 2 is pretty good, fixed a lot of issues with the first game, mainly the music. There's actually something playing in most of the overworld now, which is such a weird thing to compliment. It's good music too, you hearing this? The battles are a lot faster as well, even if they barely explain anything. Xenosaga 2 has Xenoblade 2 syndrome, and the game doesn't usually expect you to know the battle system, but if you actually do some research and learn it, the game snaps in two. Unlike Xenoblade 2 though, the battle system is pretty simple and it takes like 10 minutes to find out what's going on. It's really easy most of the time, which I didn't mind. The only boss that was a massive pain was this bitch, and I stopped playing for like 3 months because of it. Like seriously, who even is this woman? She has no plot relevance and is never mentioned again. I don't mind my ass being beaten into submission, but I need context for it, you know? Xenosaga 3 is where things get really good though. It's pretty crazy how much higher the production values are. Like, this is one of the best looking games on PS2, and it makes the first 2 games look like cheese by comparison. Everything has been polished to a crazy degree, even the pacing. Super fast battles, really crunchy, satisfying sound effects and animations. They jam-packed so much into the plot it almost feels like a whole trilogy in one game. I'm pretty sure they didn't get enough time to cover all the events they wanted to in Xenosaga 2, so they really had to make up for it in 3, which made the plot never feel boring. And if you're ever confused about anything, they have a whole ass in-game wiki to read up on stuff. Xenosaga Episode 3 was a pretty awesome time, and I somehow played through this 30-hour game in like 6 days. I haven't done that in a while, especially with an old game. It's just really hard to recommend to people because you also have to play the first 2 games in order to really know what's going on and enjoy it, and that's like a 50-hour investment. Okay, so I get why these games didn't sell well. My only big gripe with it is just all the unresolved plot threads. I get why it had to be that way, and they ended it at a place where we can't be too mad about it, but I really couldn't help myself going on the wiki to try and string together what I've just played. This is a real wiki article. Jesus Christ is canon to Xenosaga lore. If you don't know why, it's funnier that way. But my Xeno brain rot didn't stop there, because it also forced me at gunpoint to play Xenogears, and also make a 50-minute review of it. I've already talked your ear off about this thing. Just know that the game is really good, and brace yourself from how much it has to skip over in the second disc. I hope you don't mind a bunch of reading. It's so good, though. Then, this Xeno brain rot culminated into finally playing, like, the one game I was really excited for this year. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Holy shit. This game is like if they took all the customizability the 2 had, removed the RNG, and improved everything good about every game in the series and polished it all to a fine sheen. That is Xenoblade 3. And it's magnificent. I almost don't have the words to describe how good this game is in a paragraph. Do you like RPGs? Are you interested in a story where soldiers have to fight in an endless war until they're absorbed by their country's evil queen? Do you like exploration? Do you have 60 hours to spare? Do you like obsessively doing every side quest out of your own free will? If you said yes to more than one of those questions, you'll love this game. You know, that last thing was probably what I was most impressed by. I did every side quest in Xenoblade 3 as far as I know. Most of them are surprisingly enjoyable and had nice stories to tell. Look, Mio, I know you're going to die in 3 months, but let's teach this Nopon to play the flute and turn everyone in Colony 9 into potato farmers. How much of the game I played speaks volumes of how good it is. We've come a long way from kill random enemies because I told you to. My only kind of issue is that the soundtrack's the weakest in the series in my opinion. I think it's mainly the more subdued area themes. They're great for atmosphere and background noise, but I can barely remember any of it. It's probably all the flutes for me. It just doesn't hit my brain the same way spontaneous electric guitars do. This isn't even to say the soundtrack is bad, it's just weaker than the other games. Like, dude, you've been listening to the tutorial battle theme, but when your competition is stuff like this, it's really nothing to be ashamed of. Any other issue I have is just a nitpick that can be patched or modded out. That's how good this game is. My advice? Don't play Xenoblade 3. It will ruin video games for you. It's all downhill from here. Easily my game of the year and probably in my top 10 favorites. I just don't know where yet. I can't say the same for Soul Hackers 2. It's basically that SMT gameplay that I've come to really like over the years, but without any kind of interesting level design to go with it. It's not like Persona 5 with its interesting dungeon design or SMT 5's open exploration level design. It's just random hallways that you walk down that also frequently reuse visual themes. Like one area is the subway, right? Well, what if the next area is also a subway? I heard that the game slowly evolves to teleporter puzzles, so that's something that you could do on Game Boy, and it wasn't even good back then. I didn't finish Soul Hackers 2. I barely even made it to 10 hours. I like the story and characters, but playing this is just boring. Again, you're mostly walking down linear hallways with an occasional enemy. I thought we moved past this. I have to gush about Ringo, though. She's a really fun protagonist, and I would absolutely share a drink with her. Please stop using silent protagonists. This is so much better than Quiet McJRPG guy. Another disappointment for me was Klonoa, weirdly enough. Okay, let me explain. My friends kept saying how much they love these games and completely freaked out when the HD collection was announced. After playing them, I couldn't help but feel underwhelmed. Am I missing something here? It's a very basic puzzle platformer where you use enemies as projectiles or as a second jump, and that's mostly it. Klonoa plays around with the background and foreground, but it's all basic stuff. I finished the first game, but I didn't finish 2 when it kind of felt like more of the same. The thing I kept hearing about is how sad the story is, but like, not really? It's definitely not happy, but I have a hard time feeling any kind of emotion with how the text auto-advances. Like, I don't know, what if I'm not done reading it yet? Why is this a thing? Why was this ever a thing? Klonoa feels like one of those games I would have liked a lot more if I played it as a kid. It's not bad or anything, I just didn't enjoy it that much. But that's enough negativity for one video. Can't like everything, unfortunately. To contrast this negativity, Tunic is a game that I really loved. Me telling you that Tunic is like Zelda is kind of an understatement, so let me put it in a different way. Did you ever play a game as a kid and also get the strategy guide with it? Did you ever look at the strategy guide obsessively so you don't miss anything? Okay, imagine that experience, except the strategy guide is a game mechanic. There's very little text in the game, so we have to use these manual pages to use that to figure out a lot of it. It's crazy just how significant the smallest of details can be. All it can take is one graphic for you to connect the dots in your head and you're just like, what? This changes everything. I don't want to give any specifics because this is a game best experienced as blind as possible. So let me give you your personal experience instead. When I was playing Tunic, we were having lawn work done. One of them accidentally cut the internet line, so we didn't have internet for like 3 days. I had nothing else to do, so I played Tunic the whole time. This was absolutely the best way to play the game. No internet, blind Tunic is an experience I couldn't replicate if I tried. Cut yourself off from society. Take yourself back to a time when the internet didn't exist. Don't Google anything unless you 1000% have to. The game gives you all the pieces. You just have to put them together. I'm feeling a bit of internet withdrawal after that, so let's make up for it with a multiplayer game. I was obsessed with Splatoon 3 for a hot minute there. I was expecting the game to be basically the same as before, with slightly more polish, but man was I wrong. Most of the improvements seem small on paper, but they add up to a lot of new. Like, you'd think that being able to throw salmon run eggs wouldn't change the game too much, but everything is so much faster because of it. The game also had a lot more content at launch than the previous games did, so it actually feels like a finished game from the start this time. But I'm gonna be real, the single player was the main attraction for me. The game has such fun and varied stages, and it gives you more of what worked in Octo expansion and less the annoying parts. No more of those stupid sculpting stages. Except once, and it's easy enough to do in one try. And I loved how there was more emphasis in the hub in between levels, letting you really cheese your way past everything and make a mad dash toward the bosses if you want to. Like, the single player this time was worth the $60 by itself, even being quite a bit longer at about 10 hours if you do everything. The fun multiplayer just felt like a cherry on top. I could not put this game down for like 2 months. I had the opposite experience with Bayonetta 3. I've never consumed a game so hard before. I had my fun, and then I stopped thinking about it immediately after and moved on. It just kind of felt like more of the same, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, just underwhelming. Maybe it's because it went on for too long. Bayonetta 2 is a game I can finish in like 6 hours, but 3 goes on for about 12. It tries to add a lot more variety with larger set pieces and an extra playable character with Viola, but it ends up feeling padded out. Viola has the Nero problem. It doesn't matter how fun she is to play. Bayonetta is way more fun, and it makes me want to go back to playing as her. And that extends to the summon sections too. They're really flashy and over the top, but not nearly as fun as just playing the game normally. Look, I still liked Bayonetta 3, but it's one that didn't really leave much of an impression on me. Maybe Devil May Cry 5 ruined Bayonetta for me, I don't know. I recently had the depressing realization that Mania is the only good Sonic game made in the last 10 years. So obviously I had zero expectations for Frontiers, but then it came in and finally shattered that fact. The art direction is definitely very not Sonic. You could slap in different characters and it would easily pass for a different game. The pop-in isn't doing it any favors either. It's horrible, even on PS5. But the game somehow manages to be fun enough that I didn't really care. Exploring these islands feels like an expanded version of the adventure maps from the first Sonic adventure. I'm the one guy who actually liked these, so I'm pretty down for something like this. Running around doing random basic missions gets kind of boring by the third island though. This kind of formula doesn't change much throughout the game. The fourth island without the emerald hunting was a nice change of pace at least. It'll let you do some platforming for a bit instead of just wandering around almost aimlessly. I actually like the cyberspace levels though. I was having a lot of fun getting every key from everyone I found. They just get old when it's all you do, which is why I sped through the last island. I got tired of even that. Honestly, I did a bunch of fishing to skip everything near the end. I stopped caring about exploring by this point and wanted to see how everything wrapped up, because they go out of their way to make the characters likable again. I didn't really notice how much of an asshole Sonic was in recent games until I got older, and I am very glad they realized how annoying he was. That's the thing. Frontiers has heart. It feels like they're trying to make a game worth playing, even if it doesn't stick to landing all the time. Because when the game wants to go hard, it goes hard. This is the first boss. Sonic vocal tracks couldn't really find their footing ever since Crush 40 stopped making new ones, but this is it. Even the best Crush 40 tracks had a bit of cheese to them, but Undefeatable and Find Your Flame feel ripped out of Devil May Cry and fit so damn well that they make Live and Learn and What I'm Made Of sound lame. Before Frontiers, I was really indifferent to where Sonic was going. I just didn't really care that much. But now I'm actually excited to see this formula be refined into something great. I genuinely never expected them to make a story expansion for a Sonic game for free. The Sonic team wants to make something great, and that is a lot more than I can say about Forces. Pokemon Violet is somehow in a similar situation as Sonic Frontiers. A janky game that's designed well and has a lot of heart. With how empty the recent Pokemon games have felt, it feels really nice to have a game that I was actually satisfied with. Same goes for Legends Arceus. They really shouldn't have both come out this year, but I've given up trying to reason with Japanese businessmen. I would say more. However, I already made videos about these games. I don't feel the need to repeat myself that much, and I don't have anything new to add. Which is a good enough transition into the games I didn't really have much to say about bonus round. Toree 3D and Toree 2 are short platformers about a duck running around. It's kind of annoying they only last like 20 minutes each, but they're 99 cents a pop, and it's fun to learn each level and go for all the A ranks. Banger soundtracks too. A short hike is more on the relaxing side. You just wander around and do side quests until you accidentally climb the mountain. A nice way to spend an afternoon. Another short one I played was Panzer Dragoon. I don't normally like on-rail shooters, but being able to change the camera direction makes it a lot more engaging for me. While the Saturn original definitely has its own charm, the remake looks gorgeous aside from the not as noticeable water reflections. $25 is really steep for something that's only an hour long, but if you wait for a sale and get it for $3, it's pretty hard to complain. I should really play the other games. But let's look at some longer stuff now. If you want a cute game about manipulating the stock market for your own personal gain, look no further than Slime Rancher. No, I'm serious. This is a game about abusing adorable slimes to maximize profits. It's way more addicting than it should be. Which is also how I felt about Live Alive. Live Alive? Live a Live? Live a Evil? Kill a Kill? I don't know how to pronounce that. This is essentially 7 mini RPGs rolled up into one package, and it shouldn't work, but it does. The sheer variety here is insane. How many games have you played that have a cowboy showdown, a ninja stealth mission, and a cute robot running away from an alien monster all in the same game? I didn't think a remake of an obscure Super Nintendo RPG would be my top 3 games of 2022, but here we are. I'd say more, but it might make for a good standalone video. Eventually. TM. OC, do not steal. While LOL clicked with me, the other retro Square RPG I played this year did not. Chrono Cross. I am very annoyed. Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite RPGs, and Cross takes everything great from that game and does none of it. The combat's slow, the story's boring, every character other than Kid is forgettable, there's this weird, invisible, choose-your-own-adventure structure to it. Apparently, I just wasn't enjoying it. I dipped after about 8 hours. Cross isn't trying to be Trigger, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. Chrono Cross is a game that I really wanted to like, but couldn't. Please make another one, though. The last RPG I tried to get into this year was Trails in the Sky. My one friend that held me at gunpoint and forced me to play Crosscode was also forcing me to play Trails, so why not? Now, this is not Chrono Cross. I actually like what I've played of Trails in the Sky so far. I just haven't played it much. I do want to keep playing it, though. Estelle is hard carrying this game for me. She is incredible. All of my Steam screenshots are just the gold that comes out of her mouth. I'll let you know next year if my life spirals out of control and forces me to play more of this series. But speaking of my life spiraling out of control, I decided to play Fortnite. This game sure is an experience. I technically first played the game in 2018 for a few hours, but I actually kind of enjoy it now, unironically. Fortnite has the same energy as installing way too many mods. You're just walking around minding your own business only for you to get jumped by Naruto, or maybe you get sniped by a guy in a neon blue banana suit. I don't know, man, there's just something beautifully insane about running around seeing what wacky shenanigans you can get yourself into from cultural osmosis. You made All Might with a gun real, now give me Luffy with a gun, you cowards. Alright, I don't know how to transition to this last one. We're talking about the kitty cat game now. Stray. You know, it's a standard adventure game, but you play as a cat. I think that's pretty neat. If you like to see cats doing weird shit, it's a good time. Not Game of the Year nominee good, but good. I've run out of stuff to talk about, so now, a moment of silence for the games I wanted to play but didn't, for one reason or another. Freedom Planet 2, Cult of the Lamb, Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Okay, actually, I have these games, but I chose not to play them yet because I didn't want to drag this video out any longer than I already have. Also, because Live Alive good. And, you know, real quick, I'm actually playing Freedom Planet 2 right now. This game is really good. Like, it could be the recency bias talking, but it's like top 5 of the year for me. It's really good. Please play Freedom Planet 2. What is this soundtrack? How is it so good? What else? Cuphead. The delicious last course. God of War Ragnarok. I actually played most of the games I wanted to this year. That's weird. You know, it's a bit odd how I mostly stuck to the Nintendo side of things this year. I got this 2-year-old console and I'm still playing the 5-year-old one a lot more. Like, just as a point of reference, my most played Switch game was Xenoblade 3 at 150 hours, then Splatoon 3 at 70 hours, then 3 games at 40 hours. My most played PS5 game was Sonic Frontiers at 15 hours. I don't know if that says how good Switch still is or how underwhelming PS5 has been so far. The year itself, though, the world was slightly less on fire. I think. It's really hard to tell at this point. I don't know how to end this. Everything's been whack lately. Let's hope 2023 is a bit better. There's a lot I want to do this year, and I can't wait to overpromise and barely do any of it. It's been fun. Take care, everyone.